All right, let's get into this one. Today, we're diving into a really personal story, and it asks a question I think a lot of us have felt at some point. What happens when the simple, kind of magical things we learn as kids run headfirst into the rigid world of formal education? This is a story about numbers, about affinity, and about a promise that never really got kept. And it all starts right here with this memory. I mean, how many of us had this exact same feeling? This one little sentence just perfectly captures that childhood wonder. The idea that numbers were this endless playground, a ladder you could just keep climbing forever and ever just by adding one more. No rules, no limits, just pure possibility.
So, this first part of the story, it's all about that initial promise. And it wasn't a lesson from a textbook. It was a feeling. It was a game. It was that beautiful, simple idea that numbers just stretched out as far as you could imagine and then some. And isn't that how we learn best when we're kids? Through play, right? A little friendly competition to see who could shout out the biggest number? This wasn't some abstract math theory. It was real. It was exciting. The whole idea of forever, of infinity, it wasn't a problem you had to solve. It was the ultimate trump card in the game. It was the goal. But here's the catch. That early sense of wonder, it kind of came with a condition, a constant rain check. The real, deep, satisfying explanation was always just over the horizon, always coming later. And this is where the whole thing turns. It all hinges on this one little word, later. This is the heart of the broken promise, isn't it? It builds this expectation, this complete trust that the grown-ups, the teachers, they had all the secrets and they'd share them when you were ready. That promise becomes the bedrock for an entire life of learning. You can literally map out a whole lifetime based on this waiting game. It kicks off in childhood with this awesome promise of forever. Then it shifts into the teenage years with a constant delay of later. All of this builds up to this huge moment of anticipation for the grand reveal at university. And where does it all lead? To right now, with that same original question just hanging in the air. And that brings us to the climax of the story. The moment that was promised for decades finally shows up. University. This was supposed to be it, the place where all the dots connect, where all those laters were finally going to be cashed in. But, well, that's not what happened at all. Wow, I mean, the contrast here is just brutal. On one side, you have the lifelong hope. They're finally going to explain how it all works. And on the other, you get hit with the cold, hard reality of academia. You should already know this. It's not an invitation to learn. It's an accusation. The door that was supposed to swing wide open was actually already shut. And the fallout from that moment is just massive. The author doesn't just feel ignored, they feel like the answers they were given were just cheap and maybe even flat out wrong. What was supposed to be this peak of intellectual understanding just felt like ridiculously simple definitions. The magic was gone, replaced by what felt like lazy shortcuts. So where does that leave a person? After waiting your whole life, what comes next isn't really anger. It's more like this deep emotional plea. It's a search for something solid to stand on after you feel like the rug's been pulled out from under you. You can just feel the years, the weight of time in this sentence. This isn't about one bad class or a confusing professor. It's the cumulative damage of what feels like a lifetime of lies and arrogance. It's the sadness that sinks in when you realize that simple, clear truth you were promised as a kid might never actually show up. And in the end, it all comes back to this. After all the years, all the classes, all the waiting, the author is left with the same basic questions he started with, only now they're covered in disappointment. This isn't an academic question anymore, is it? It's a plea for clarity, for something real and true to finally hold on to. It's the question that later was supposed to answer. Ultimately, this one person's story blows up into a much bigger question for all of us, really. It makes you stop and think. In our rush to get to the right answers, to cram for tests and memorize formal definitions, what happens to that spark, that pure wonder we all had as kids playing with big numbers? What gets lost when let's explore turns into you should already know this? It's a really good question and one worth thinking about.